Hi there and welcome back to the channel. In today's video we'll be finishing off this multi-part series with the final branch of the Mabinogi known as the Mathonwy. The fourth branch is the most complex and is about the birth, death and rebirth of Gyffes, who was a hero god in the Celtic world, most likely having the same origin as the Irish Llaw and the Gaulish Lleu, who we have definitive evidence of a pre-Christian cult. Along with all the other branches, the tale can be found in the medieval Red Book of Hergest and the White Book of Lleu. References to the branch can be found in two old triads, retained in the Trioednis Prydain. The story starts in the kingdom of Gwynedd. Mathonwy was lord of Gwynedd, and our old friend Pryderi was lord of the 21 cantrefs in the south. Those were the 7 cantrefs of Dyfed, the 7 of Mabinogi, 4 of Ceredigion, and 3 of Llaw. At this time, Mathonwy had a strange conditional curse on him that meant unless he was needed at war, then he must lay his feet in the lap of an untouched virgin maiden, otherwise he would die. What is unusual in this context is not the fact that there is a foot holder in the court of a Welsh king, but the fact that the foot holder was female. The laws implicitly assume a male functionary. This immediately gives the setting a curious slant. This sets the tone for the subsequent events in the branch, in which the inversion of gender roles is a notable feature, and emphasises the archaic matrilineal otherness of Gwynedd at this time. The maiden, known as Gawain, daughter of Pebyn of Dol Pebyn in Arfon, was considered the most beautiful woman that existed in her time, and this did not go unnoticed. Because Math couldn't visit his own lands, his nephews Gyffes and Gwydion, who were the sons of his goddess sister Don, would go for him instead. Antiquarians of the early modern era generally considered Don a male figure, but Clis Don, literally court of Don, is a traditional Welsh name for the constellation Cassiopeia, who was also a female figure. We will see 3 of her children in this branch, Gwydion, Gyffes and Arianrhod. Gyffes falls into a one-sided love with Gawain, but realises that unless a war broke out, they would never get to see her alone. His magician brother Gwydion comes up with a plan so that his brother could enact on his feelings, which had grown into obsession and stopped him from eating and drinking. Gwydion tells his uncle about an animal that was new and just introduced to Wales that they were calling pigs, and how he could get them from their owner Pryderi of Dyfed. Pryderi received a number of these otherworldly pigs from his father's old ally, Arianrhod of Anon. "Lord," said Gwydion, "I have heard that a certain type of creature has come to the south, which has never come to this island before." "What is their name?" asked the other. "Hogs, Lord." "What kind of animal are those?" "Small animals. Their meat is better than the meat of oxen. They are small, and they are changing names. Pigs is what they are called nowadays." "To whom do they belong?" "Pryderi, son of Pwyll, sent to him from Anon, from Aron, king of Anon." "Aye," he replied, "by what means will you get them?" "I will go in a group of 12 in the guise of bards, Lord, to ask for the pigs." "And what if he refuses you?" "Not bad is my plan, Lord," said he. "I will not come back without the pigs." "Go to it then gladly," he replied. He took a band of men, including his brother, to Ceredigion, where they disguised themselves as bards to gain audience with King Pryderi. Gwydion was a skilled cyfarwydd, or storyteller, and the court were mesmerised with his stories. Pryderi was having such a good time that he offered to trade the pigs for some horses and dogs, which Gwydion managed to conjure through magic. They both agreed to finalise the trade, and Gwydion and his men took the pigs back home to Gwynedd, but his trickery is quickly revealed when the magic wears off and Pryderi goes absolutely mental. Pryderi raises his army made of the 21 cantrefs as the band flee back with their stolen pigs. Math accepts the stolen pigs, which were hidden in the sty, and gets ready for war with his men. While this is all happening, Gwydion and Gyffes returned back to Caer Dafil, where Gawain was cornered in Marthas's bedchamber and forcibly essayed and R-worded by Gyffes to show his toxic and vile love for her, while the other bedchamber maidens were forced out of the room and were unable to save her. When the sun rose the next day, the brothers made their way back to Math and his warband. Declaring war on Gwynedd, Pryderi and his men marched north and fight a battle between Maenna Benarf and Maenna Coed Both sides suffer heavy losses, but Math fab Mathonwy, king of Gwynedd, is victorious, and Pryderi is forced to retreat. He is pursued to Nant Cash, where more of his men are slaughtered, and then to Llaw, where he suffers a third defeat. To avoid further bloodshed, it is agreed that the outcome of the battle should be decided by single combat between Gwydion and Pryderi. The two contenders meet at a place called Lleu in Ardudwy, and because of strength and valour and magic and enchantment, Gwydion triumphs and Pryderi is killed. The men of Dyfed retreat back to their own land, lamenting over the death of their lord. Upon returning back to court, Math returned back to his chambers and learnt of the crime committed against Gawain when she refused to let him place his feet in her lap. "Lord," said Gawain, "you must seek a virgin to go under your feet now. I am woman. What is the explanation of that?" "An attack, Lord, was committed upon my person, quite openly, and I myself did not stay silent. There is no one in this court who wouldn't have known about it. It was your nephews who came, Lord, sons of your sister, Gwydion, son of Don, and Gyffes, son of Don. They committed an assault on me and an insult upon you. They slept with me, and they did that in your chamber and in your bed." "Aye," said he, "this is what I can do. I will first get justice for you, and after that I will get justice for myself." He continued, "As for you, I will take you as my wife, and I will give the power of my country into your hands." Gwydion and Gyffes both knew that they had been caught and tried to stay away from the court as long as they could. When they did return, they surrendered themselves to punishment. Math, using his own magic, he takes both of his nephews and curses them to be turned into pairs of mated animals, and that each year they must produce offspring together. Gwydion becomes a stag for a year, then a sow, and finally a wolf. After the first transformation, Gyffes tried to escape, but became a hind deer, a boar, and a she-wolf. Each year they produce an offspring which is sent to Math, and uses his magic once again to turn these animal children into humans, known as Hevon, Havonhir, and Blevon. "Since you have been in league together, I will make you fair together and be mated. You will have the same nature as the beasts whose shapes you are in, and during this time they will have offspring, so you will have them too. A year from today, come to see me here." After a year to the day, lo, he could hear an uproar below the wall of the chamber, the dogs of the court barking on top of that uproar. "Go and see what's outside," said he. "Lord," someone said, "I have looked. There is a stag and a hind and a fawn with them." At that he arose and came outside. When he came, what he could see was the three creatures. The three creatures were a stag, a hind, and a sturdy fawn. He raised up his wand. "That one that was a hind for the last year, let him be a wild boar this year. And the one of you that was a stag, let him be a wild sow." And with that he struck them both with the wand. "The boy, however, I will take him and have him raised and be baptized." He was given the name Hevon. "As for you two, begone. One of you be a wild boar, the other a wild sow, and the nature that is in wild swine, that is what you will be like. A year from today, be here outside the wall, and your offspring with you." At the end of the year, lo, they heard barking below the wall of the chamber, and the court stirred up in response at that. He arose and went outside, and when he came outside, he could see three creatures. The kind of creatures he could see were a wild boar, a wild sow, and a fine little piglet with them, and it was big for its age. "Aye," he said, "I will take this one myself, and have him baptized." He struck it with his wand, turning it into a handsome red-haired boy. He was given the name Havonhir. "And you, the one who was a wild boar for the last year, let him be a she-wolf this year, and the one that was a sow last year, let him be a wolf this year." Thereupon they were struck with the wand, turning them into a wolf and she-wolf. "And the nature of the animals in whose shape you are, let that be yours. Be here a year from today, at the bottom of this wall." The same day, 1 year later, Lo, he could hear an uproar and barking below the wall of the chamber. He went outside, and when he came, he could see a wolf, a she-wolf, and a sturdy wolf cub with them. I will take this one, he said, and have him baptized. And there's already a name for him. That is Blevon. The 3 boys are yours. And they are the 3 sons of Gyffes the False, 3 warriors true, Blevon, Hevon, and Hevonhir the Tall. At that, he struck both of them with the magic wand, returning them back to the flesh. After their punishment was over, Marth asks their advice as to who should be his next virgin footholder. Gwydion suggested their sister, Arianrhod. However, Arianrhod was not a virgin, and when asked to step over a magical rod to prove her virginity, she immediately gave birth to a son. Filled with shame, she ran away, leaving the child there, and in the process, a lump of flesh also fell out from under her skirts, which only Gwydion noticed, and he quickly scooped it up and hid it in her chest. In an earlier form of the 4th branch, Gwydion himself may have actually been the father of Arianrhod's children that she gives birth to here. Marth isn't a bad person and takes the baby left behind and names him Dylan after his baptism, because as soon as Dylan comes into contact with his baptismal waters, he escapes and plunges into the sea and takes on characteristics of a sea creature, moving through the seawater as perfectly as any fish, and becomes known as Dylan, Prince of the Waves. Meanwhile, Gwydion wakes up one morning and heard crying from his chest. When he opened it, the blob of flesh had grown into a newborn baby. He carried the baby tightly wrapped into town and made a deal with a local woman to raise a newborn, but in the space of a year, he was already the size of a 2-year-old, and by the next year he was big enough to go to the court by himself. Gwydion never lost sight of the boy and would speak with him whenever he came to the court, and the boy grew to love him as a father figure. He ended up being taken by Gwydion into the court and raised there instead. By the time he was 4 years old, he was the size of an 8-year-old child, and one day he followed Gwydion while he was out on a walk, and the two go to Caer Arianrhod, the court where the mother that he never knew lived. Upon his arrival at the court, Arianrhod got up to meet him and make him welcome. "God give well to you," he said. "Who is that boy following you?" "This boy is a boy of yours." "Alas, man, what has come over you, shaming me like this, and continuing my shame, and keeping it with you for as long as this? If your shame is nothing more than my having reared a boy this fine, then a small thing is your shame." "What is the name of your boy?" said she. "God knows," said he. "There is no name upon him yet." "Aye," said she, "I will swear an oath upon him. He will not get a name until he gets it from me." She places a tyngedau on the boy, and he will never have a name unless she gives it to him. "I swear to God by my confession," said he, "you are a wretched woman. The boy will get a name, even if it is evil to you, and you," he continued, "because of him grief is upon you. You are not called a maiden, and will never be called a maiden again." To trick her into naming him, Gwydion disguised himself and the boy as shoemakers, and as they were making shoes for her, the boy threw a stone at a bird and killed it. Arianrhod declared, "It is with a skillful hand that the fair-haired one has hit it." At that, Gwydion reveals himself, with him saying, "Gyffes, the fair-haired one with the skillful hand," is his name now. Furious at this trickery, Arianrhod places another tyngedau on Lleu. He shall receive alms from no one but Arianrhod herself. "God knows," said she, "you will not thrive for being so evil to me." "I have not been evil to you, even now," he replied. Then he released his boy into his former appearance, and took his own appearance as well. "I," said she, "I will swear an oath on this boy, that he will never take arms until I arm him myself." "Between me and God," said he, "this all springs from your wretchedness, but he will his arms get nonetheless." Time passed, and Lleu grew big and strong. Again, Gwydion disguised his nephew and himself, this time as bards, and like he did to King Pryderi, entertained Arianrhod's court with stories. In the morning, Gwydion deceived Arianrhod to believe that her estate was under attack. When she asked for his advice, he bade her gird a sword on Gyffes, who he said was a skillful fighter. No sooner had she done so than Gwydion revealed the truth. That mustering, he replied, was to break your destiny upon your boy, and for him to get his own weapons. And he got his weapons indeed, no thanks to you. Between me and God, you are an evil man, she exclaimed. Many a boy could have lost his life in the mustering you caused in his cantref today. I will swear a destiny upon him, she continued, that he will never get a wife from any race that is in the world today. Aye, said he, you have always been a wretched woman, and no one should support you, but he will get a wife just the same. From her curses, Arianrhod denied Lleu the three aspects of masculinity, a name, arms and a wife during this period of Welsh society. Leaving his mother's court for the last time, he and Gwydion both returned back to Math, and Gwydion explains everything he had done to ensure that his nephew, or potentially his own son, could live a good full life despite his mother rejecting him. Aye, said Math, we must endeavour, you and I, to conjure a wife for him out of flowers, using our magic and enchantment. Lleu had grown into a fully grown man at this point, and was the most handsome young man that anyone had ever seen. They took the flowers of the oak, the flowers of the broom, and the flowers of the meadowsweet, and from those they called forth the fairest and most beautiful woman anyone had ever seen. She was baptized with the baptism they practiced back then, and the name of Blodeuwedd was given to her. After that, they had a feast to celebrate their wedding and consummated their marriage while the guests celebrated. Lleu and Blodeuwedd was given land to start their life together and ruled the cantref of Dynoding, where they held court at Maer Castell. Their people loved Lleu greatly, and he looked after them well. One day he went to the court of Math to pay his respects, and at that time Blodeuwedd, the lord of Pension, was passing while on a hunt. It was getting late, and he asked to stay for the night. Blodeuwedd agreed, since it would have been disrespectful to her husband if she had turned him away and other people had found out. When the two sat down and looked at each other, they both instantly fell in love, as if by magic, and declared that they were in love with the other person. That night they slept together, and the same the next night. They spoke about how they could stay together, and discussed a plan to kill Lleu. Blodeuwedd would go to Lleu, and while pretending to care, ask him about his weaknesses, so that she could keep him safe. He tells her that unless a god wills it, then he would be very difficult to kill, since he cannot be killed during the day or night, nor indoors or outdoors, neither riding nor walking, not clothed but not naked, nor by any weapon lawfully made. He reveals to her that he can only be killed at dusk, wrapped in a net, with one foot on a cauldron and one on a goat, with a spear forged for a year during the hours when everyone is at mass. And with that list of impossible conditions, Blodeuwedd somehow manages to arrange this, and Gronel throws the spear which hits Lleu, but he changes his shape into an eagle and flies away to save his own life. Gwydion and Math manage to track him down and nurse him back to health before they go to reclaim his lands together. Blodeuwedd tries to flee, but Gwydion overtakes her and turns her into an owl. You will not dare show your face ever again in the light of day ever again, and that will be because of the enmity between you and all other birds. It will be in their nature to harass you and despise you wherever they find you, and you will not lose your name. That will always be Blodeuwedd. Meanwhile, Gronel escapes to Pension and sends emissaries to Lleu to beg for his forgiveness. Lleu refuses, demanding that Gronel must stand on the bank of the river Cynnfawr and receive a blow from his spear. Gronel desperately asks if anyone from his warband will take the spear in his place, but his men refuse his plea. Eventually Gronel agrees to receive the blow on the condition that he may place a large stone between himself and Lleu, who allows him to do so before throwing the spear with such strength that it pierces the stone, killing his rival. There is actually still a large hold stone in Ardudwy known as Clich Gronel. The branch then ends with Lleu ascending the throne of Gwynedd as heir to Math. And that is the end of the Mabinogi. This branch is possibly the longest out of the four and contains so much. It has magic, curses, love, hate, birth, death, everything. A little bit of incest maybe. Thank you very much for making it to the end of the video, and I hope that you enjoyed it. I will be going over some of the characters more in depth later on for the channel at some point. Possibly also recording the Mabinogi chapters in their entirety as a reading. But please don't forget to share, like and subscribe to the channel, or leave me a comment down below. I will see you all in the next video. Bye bye.